My name is Stephanie, and I never imagined I'd be standing in a courtroom, staring across the aisle at my own family as if they were strangers. I never imagined that people I'd grown up with, celebrated birthdays with, would be trying to take everything from me. And I certainly never thought I'd be holding a single sheet of paper that would make the judge pick up the phone and bring police officers into the room. Before I share what happened, I just want to say, if you enjoy hearing true, real-life stories, tap that subscribe button, hit the bell so you don't miss the next one, and leave your thoughts in the comments. I do read as many as I can, and it means a lot to know what you think. It all began after my father passed away. He was a private man, especially about his finances, but he worked hard his entire life and invested carefully. I knew he had built something, but I didn't know exactly how much. I'm the second oldest of four, two brothers, one younger sister. When we were kids, we were close, but as we got older, we drifted apart. My brothers went into business together, my sister moved to another state, and I stayed behind to help Dad in his later years. Caring for him was not easy. His health issues needed constant attention, and I had to give up my job, my apartment, and a lot of my own life to be there for him. I never regretted it. He was my dad, and I loved him, but it was hard. My siblings didn't visit much, and when they did, it was usually just for show. I didn't call them out for it, I just kept going. When he passed, I thought grief would be the hardest part. I was wrong. The hardest part was watching my family turn on me almost immediately. At first, it was small things, calls about the house, about bank accounts, about what's going where. Then came a group message from my oldest brother saying we needed to divide Dad's assets fairly. It sounded reasonable, but I quickly realized fairly in their minds meant strip Stephanie of everything and split it 3 ways. I wasn't trying to take more than I should. But I had been Dad's main caregiver for years, and I knew there were things he wanted me to have, things he had told me about himself. Some were sentimental, like his watch and the desk he built with his own hands. But some were more significant, like a savings account he had set aside for me specifically as thanks for caring for him. My siblings didn't care. They hired a lawyer and filed in court, demanding that every account, every piece of property, be split evenly among all 4 of us. It didn't matter that the account was in my name alone or that I had sacrificed so much to care for Dad. They wanted it all. The first time I walked into that courtroom, I felt sick. I'd never been in front of a judge before, and now I was sitting across from my own family. They didn't even look at me. My brothers kept their eyes on their lawyer. My sister just sat with her arms folded, staring at the table. Their lawyer came prepared, binders of paperwork, a confident voice, and a story that made me out to be manipulative and greedy. I sat there frozen as he implied I had somehow taken advantage of Dad in his final years. My hands shook under the table. But I wasn't completely unprepared. Before he passed, Dad had given me a sealed envelope. He told me to keep it safe and only open it if the time ever came to defend the truth. I didn't know what he meant back then, but I trusted him. That envelope stayed in my desk for months, until my siblings filed against me. When I opened it, my heart raced. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a signed, notarized statement from my father, explaining exactly what he wanted each of us to have and why. It wasn't a complete will, but it clarified his intentions, especially about the savings account and certain properties. And it completely contradicted almost everything my siblings were saying in court. I didn't tell anyone I had it. Not even my lawyer. At the first hearing, I listened as they piled on their accusations. When it was finally my turn, I stood, took a breath, and said, "Your Honor, I have a document I believe you should see." The room went still. My siblings turned to look at me, their faces a mix of confusion and something else, maybe fear. I walked up to the judge and handed him the envelope. He opened it, read the page carefully, then read it again. I watched his expression sharpen. He turned to their lawyer and asked, "Do you have any response to this?" The lawyer stammered. My siblings exchanged worried looks. My pulse was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Finally, the judge set the paper down and said, "This changes a great deal. I will need to verify its authenticity, but if this is legitimate, it has serious implications." Then he picked up the phone, spoke quietly to someone, and minutes later, 2 police officers walked into the courtroom. The moment those 2 officers stepped into the courtroom, the air shifted. You could feel the tension, like the oxygen itself had thickened. My brothers stiffened in their seats, my sister's eyes darted between them and the officers, and their lawyer straightened his tie as if trying to regain some kind of control over the situation. I kept my gaze on the judge. He gestured for the officers to approach the bench, then leaned forward and spoke to them in a low voice. I couldn't make out what he was saying, but I saw one officer nod and step back, his eyes scanning the courtroom as if he was already measuring people up. The judge then addressed the court. "It appears this document contains information that warrants immediate verification. Given the nature of the claims and the potential for misconduct, I have called for law enforcement to be present while we review the circumstances surrounding this case." That one word, misconduct, hung heavy in the air. My siblings froze. Their lawyer quickly stood. "Your Honor, with all due respect, this is a civil matter, and the presence of law enforcement is unnecessary. We can sort through these disputes without involving the police." The judge fixed him with a look that could have cracked glass. "Counselor, this may have started as a civil dispute, but if this document is authentic, it raises questions that go beyond civil law." The lawyer's voice faltered. "And what questions might those be?" The judge didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned to me. "Ms. Bennett, where did you get this document?" I swallowed, my mouth dry. "My father gave it to me before he passed. He told me to keep it safe and only use it if I ever needed to defend the truth." "And have you altered it in any way since receiving it?" the judge asked. "No, sir," I said. "It's exactly as he gave it to me. I kept it in a sealed envelope until I opened it last month." The judge nodded slowly, then looked to the officers. "I'd like you to take a copy of this document and begin the process of confirming its authenticity. You'll also want to review related financial records and signatures." One officer stepped forward to collect a copy. As he passed our table, I could feel my sister's glare boring into me. My brothers weren't even looking at me anymore. They were focused on the judge, as though trying to gauge how bad this could get. While the officers stepped out to make calls, the judge leaned back in his chair. "In light of this development, I'm ordering a temporary hold on any asset division until we have clarity. This court will not permit the redistribution of property if there's evidence that the deceased's wishes have been deliberately misrepresented." The words landed like a hammer. My sibling's lawyer muttered something to them, his tone low but urgent. My oldest brother shook his head, clearly agitated. I sat quietly, my hands clasped tightly together. Inside, I was a storm of emotions, relief that the truth was finally out there, fear of how far my family might go to protect themselves, and sadness that it had even come to this. The judge decided to take a short recess while the officers did their work. The moment he left the bench, my siblings pounced, verbally, at least. "What are you doing, Stephanie?" my sister hissed as she leaned over the table. "Do you have any idea what you've started?" "I'm telling the truth," I said calmly, though my heart was racing. "Dad didn't want things the way you're claiming. I'm not going to sit here and let you rewrite his wishes." My younger brother leaned in too, his voice sharper. "You think this little piece of paper is going to save you? You're just making things worse for yourself." I met his eyes. If standing up for what Dad wanted makes things worse for me, then so be it. They both sat back, fuming. The lawyer returned from the hallway, clearly unhappy. "We need to get ahead of this," he told them, but I couldn't hear the rest because he lowered his voice. When the recess ended, the officers returned. One of them handed the judge a folder and whispered something in his ear. I watched the judge's expression shift ever so slightly, interest, then concern. According to preliminary checks, the judge began, "This document's notary stamp and signature match official records, and the date corresponds to a time when the deceased was in sound mind and health. This is not a forgery." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. The lawyer stood abruptly. "Your Honor, even if authentic, this document is incomplete. It's not a full will. Therefore, it cannot override established probate procedures." The judge cut him off. "It may not be a complete will, but it contains specific instructions that contradict claims made in your filings. That is a serious matter, counselor. If those claims were knowingly false, we're dealing with potential fraud." The word fraud hit like a clap of thunder. My sister's face drained of color. My brother's shifted uncomfortably. The judge continued, "Given this, I'm expanding the scope of the review. Law enforcement will have access to relevant financial records, property deeds, and communications related to this estate. Anyone found to have misrepresented facts to this court will face the consequences." One officer stepped closer to our side of the room, not threatening, but making his presence felt. My family suddenly looked very small in their expensive suits. My lawyer finally spoke up. "Your Honor, my client has been transparent from the start. She is simply fulfilling her late father's wishes, as documented in this statement. We welcome a full investigation." The judge nodded. "Good. We'll reconvene in 1 week with the results of the investigation. Until then, no assets are to be touched. This session is adjourned." The gavel came down with a sharp crack. As we gathered our things, the officers approached my siblings' table. "We'll need to speak with you about some of these transactions," one said. My brother's faces tightened. My sister clutched her purse like it was the last safe thing she owned. Outside the courtroom, I could hear them arguing with each other, their voices low but angry. I didn't stick around to listen. Instead, I walked out into the bright sunlight, my knees still shaky but my heart lighter than it had been in months. I knew this wasn't over. The investigation could uncover more than I imagined. But for the first time, I felt like the truth actually had a chance to stand. And deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that Dad had somehow known this day would come, and had trusted me to be strong enough to face it. When I got home that afternoon, I didn't collapse the way I thought I would. I just sat in my living room, staring at the envelope my father had given me years ago, the one that had held the document I just handed over in court. I ran my fingers over the worn paper, remembering the way he'd pressed it into my hand. "Keep this safe, Stephanie," he'd said. "It might not matter now, but one day, you'll understand." I hadn't understood back then. I do now. The following days were a strange kind of limbo. I went to work, answered emails, ate dinner alone at my kitchen table. But in the back of my mind, I kept thinking about what the officers were doing, digging through bank statements, tracing property deeds, comparing signatures. My siblings, meanwhile, had gone silent. No calls, no texts. I didn't know if that was a blessing or a sign of something brewing. 3 days after the hearing, I was pouring coffee when my lawyer called. "You might want to sit down," she said. I set the mug aside and sank into a chair. "What happened?" "They've found some things," she replied. "Transfers. Several large sums moved from your father's accounts into an account in your brother Mark's name, within weeks of your father's hospitalization." I felt my stomach drop. "Were they authorized?" "They were questionable," she said carefully. "There's no record of your father signing off on them, and the bank statements list them as miscellaneous withdrawals. The timing is suspicious." I pressed my hand to my forehead. "How much?" "Close to 200,000. I went cold. My father had worked his whole life to build up that savings. He'd never been flashy with money, but he'd always made sure we had what we needed growing up. 200,000 wasn't just a number, it was decades of his work, gone in a matter of weeks. "That's not all," she continued. "The officers also found a property transfer, one of the rental homes your father owned. It was signed over to your sister Laura's name, but the notary's signature doesn't match her records. They're looking into possible forgery." I gripped the phone tighter. "This is more than I imagined." "There's going to be another hearing," she said. "The judge wants to confront them with the findings. Be prepared, it's going to get messy." Messy was an understatement. A week later, I walked back into that same courtroom, my stomach in knots. My siblings were already there, looking tense and tired. Laura wouldn't meet my eyes. Mark was whispering furiously to their lawyer. The judge came in, and after the formalities, he dove straight in. Over the past week, investigators have uncovered financial and property transactions that raise significant concerns. These involve large transfers of funds and the transfer of real estate, all occurring during a period when the deceased was medically incapacitated. Mark's lawyer immediately jumped up. "Your Honor, there is no proof that these transactions were unauthorized. Families often make arrangements during—" "Sit down, counselor," the judge said sharply. "We're not here for speculation. We have evidence." He turned to the officers, who stepped forward with a thick binder. "Present the findings." One officer flipped it open and spoke clearly. On July 14th, a withdrawal of $75,000 was made from the late Mr. Bennett's account, deposited into an account belonging to Mark Bennett. On August 2nd, another transfer of $125,000 occurred. Both transactions were processed through online banking using credentials that records show Mr. Bennett did not access after his hospitalization. The courtroom was dead silent. "That's not all," the officer continued. On August 18, a property deed for 124 Greenfield Lane was transferred from Mr. Bennett to Laura Bennett. The notary listed on the document has confirmed that she did not sign or witness this transaction, and her official seal was not in use at the time. This suggests the document was falsified. Laura finally looked up, her face pale. "That's not true," she started, but her lawyer put a hand on her arm, shaking his head. The judge fixed them both with a stare. "Do you understand the seriousness of what's being presented here? We are now in territory that involves criminal charges." The words seemed to hit Mark and Laura like a punch. My lawyer leaned toward me. "Stay calm. Just let this play out." The judge then turned to me. "Ms. Bennett, you've been quiet. Is there anything you'd like to add?" I took a deep breath. "Your Honor, my father trusted me to protect his wishes. I didn't know all of this was happening while he was in the hospital. If I had, I would have spoken up sooner. This isn't about taking anything from my siblings. It's about making sure the truth comes out, no matter how ugly it is." For a moment, no one spoke. Then the judge said, "Your commitment to honoring your father's wishes is noted." The rest of the hearing was tense. Mark's lawyer tried to argue that the transactions were family decisions made in the spirit of keeping assets in the family, but the judge wasn't buying it. He ordered that all accounts linked to the transfers be frozen and the property transfer be suspended pending investigation. As we left the courtroom, an officer stopped Mark and Laura. "We'll need to speak to you both privately." I kept walking, not looking back. Outside, the air felt heavy, like a storm was coming. And maybe it was. Later that night, I got another call from my lawyer. "Stephanie, there's a chance charges will be filed. Fraud. Theft. Possibly forgery. If that happens, this will go beyond the probate court." I sat on the edge of my bed, trying to process it all. My siblings and I had fought as kids, sure, but I'd never thought we'd end up here, on opposite sides of a courtroom, with police involved. Part of me wanted to cry. Part of me wanted to scream. But most of all, part of me wanted my father back, because maybe then, we could have avoided all of this. Instead, all I had was his voice in my memory, telling me to keep the truth safe. And that's exactly what I planned to do. The next morning, my phone rang before I'd even finished my first cup of coffee. It was Detective Harris, one of the officers from the courtroom. His voice was calm but clipped. "Stephanie, I thought you should know we've begun interviews with your siblings. We'll be asking you to come in later this week, but for now, I think you should be prepared. Things are moving quickly." I set my mug down. "Moving quickly how?" There was a pause. "Your sister has retained a criminal defense attorney. That usually tells us something." I thanked him, hung up, and just sat there for a moment, letting the words settle. My sister Laura, my stylish, sharp-tongued older sister, was now officially lawyering up for a criminal investigation involving our own father's estate. That evening, I drove past the old Bennett family house, the one Dad had sold years ago before downsizing. It wasn't ours anymore, but I found myself slowing down, remembering when the three of us, Mark, Laura, and I, would play tag in the yard until the streetlights came on. Back then, we were just kids who thought forever was how long summer would last. Now, forever felt like a string of court dates and unanswered questions. 2 days later, my turn came. I walked into the police station, the air cold with that sterile, faintly metallic smell. Detective Harris greeted me, then led me into a small interview room. There was a single table, 3 chairs, and a recorder already sitting in the center. He hit the record button. "For the record, please state your full name." "Stephanie Bennett." He nodded. "Stephanie, we just need your account of events, what you knew about your father's finances, when you became aware of possible irregularities, and how the document you presented in court came into your possession." I told them everything. How Dad had given me the envelope years ago. How I'd never looked too closely at it until after he passed. How I'd been blindsided by the court hearing when my siblings demanded everything. Harris listened quietly, jotting notes here and there. When I finished, he asked, "At any point, did your siblings tell you they had your father's permission to make those transfers or transfer the property?" I shook my head. No. And honestly, I don't think they would have told me if they had. They've always assumed I wouldn't understand, or that I'd overreact. He leaned back in his chair. "It's interesting you say that. In Laura's interview, she claimed your father verbally authorized the property transfer to her, said he wanted to thank her for caring for him during his illness. But the records show she wasn't visiting regularly at that time." That stung, but it didn't surprise me. Laura had a way of rewriting history so that she came out looking noble. "What about Mark?" I asked. Harris glanced at his notes. "Mark claims the money was an advance on his inheritance. But there's no documentation, no witness, and no mention of it in the will. When we pressed him, he got defensive, said the family should handle things privately." I almost laughed. Privately, meaning in a way no one could hold them accountable. The interview ended after about an hour, and as I left, Harris gave me a small nod. "Stephanie, whatever happens next, remember you've done the right thing. That counts for something." I drove home feeling lighter, but that weight came back fast when my phone buzzed later that night. It was a text from an unknown number. "You think you're a hero? Wait until everyone knows the truth about you." I stared at the screen. My first instinct was to ignore it, but I took a screenshot and sent it to Harris just in case. The next day in court, the tension was almost unbearable. The judge had called a special session after receiving updated reports from the police. The bailiff opened the door, and in walked Harris with another officer, carrying a stack of folders. The judge gestured for them to proceed. Harris began, "Since our last hearing, we have confirmed that the notary signature on the property transfer was forged. Additionally, we traced the IP address used for the bank transfers. It originated from Mark Bennett's home address." Mark's face went pale. Laura stiffened beside him. The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Bennett, do you have an explanation for this?" Mark's lawyer jumped in, trying to stall. "Your Honor, my client is still processing." The judge cut him off. "Processing will not erase the fact that the evidence points directly to his involvement in fraudulent activity. We will be referring this matter to the district attorney's office for review." The room felt like it was holding its breath. Then, in a move no one expected, Laura spoke up. "Your Honor, I need to say something." Her lawyer looked horrified, but she kept going. "Mark told me Dad wanted him to move the money somewhere safe. He said the property transfer was just a way to keep it out of probate court so we could avoid taxes. I didn't know the notary signature was fake, I swear. But I signed the papers he gave me. The judge raised an eyebrow. So you are admitting to signing a legal document you knew was transferring property to you from an incapacitated individual? Laura's voice cracked. Yes, but I thought it was what Dad wanted. The judge's expression didn't soften. Ignorance is not a defense in this matter. Mark turned to glare at her, his jaw tight. You're throwing me under the bus? Seriously? He hissed, loud enough for those nearby to hear. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like the quiet, sidelined little sister. I was watching them scramble, the truth pushing through the cracks they'd tried so hard to cover. By the end of the session, the judge ordered a full criminal review and froze not just the contested assets, but also several other accounts linked to my siblings. He scheduled another hearing for the following month, warning everyone that failure to cooperate could result in immediate legal consequences. When we stepped out into the hallway, Laura avoided my gaze. Mark brushed past me without a word. I stood there for a moment, my hands trembling, not from fear this time, but from the sheer release of months of pressure. Outside, the sky was gray and heavy, the kind that promised rain. I pulled my coat tighter around me and started walking toward my car. Every step felt like I was moving further away from the person they'd always treated like an afterthought. For the first time, I was beginning to believe I could actually win, not just in court, but in reclaiming the life they'd tried to take from me. The news came 3 days later. I was sitting at my kitchen table, sorting through unpaid bills, when my phone lit up with Detective Harris's name. Stephanie, he said without much preamble, the district attorney has agreed to move forward. Both your brother and sister are being formally charged. For a moment, I couldn't speak. The reality of it hit me all at once, not the satisfaction people expect when justice starts to work, but a deep, aching sadness. Charged with what? Fraud, forgery, and misappropriation of estate funds, he said. We've issued arrest warrants. They'll be picked up later today. I swallowed hard. Picked up sounded so clinical. In reality, it meant my own siblings would be cuffed, driven away, and booked like any other suspect. After we hung up, I just sat there in silence. I knew they'd done wrong, there was no denying the evidence, but part of me still remembered the years before all this, when we'd share birthday cakes, fight over the last slice of pizza, or sit on the same couch watching old movies at Dad's place. By late afternoon, it was already all over the local news. Siblings accused of defrauding late father's estate flashed across the bottom of the TV screen. Their mugshots appeared side by side, Laura's eyes red from crying, Mark's expression a cold glare. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. Friends, old neighbors, even coworkers from years ago were sending messages. Some were supportive. Others, not so much. One, from an old family friend named Helen, stuck with me. She wrote, "Steph, I just want you to know, your dad would be proud of you for standing up for what's right. Don't let anyone make you doubt that." That night, as I was locking up the house, I heard a knock at my door. It was nearly 9 p.m., and my first thought was that it might be a reporter. But when I opened the door, I froze. It was my cousin Daniel. He stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, his face pale. "I had to come," he said quietly. "I didn't want you to hear this from someone else." I motioned for him to sit. "What is it?" Daniel hesitated, glancing down at his hands. Before your dad passed, Mark came to me. He asked me to sign something saying I witnessed him talking to your dad about transferring the property. My heart sank. You didn't sign it, did you? Daniel exhaled slowly. I did. I shouldn't have, but I did. He said it was just to keep the lawyers from taking too big a cut of the estate. I didn't think it was going to lead to this. I stared at him, torn between anger and pity. Do you realize you could be dragged into this investigation? He nodded. That's why I went to Harris yesterday. I told him everything. I gave them the copy of what I signed. I told them I lied. For the first time, I noticed his hands were shaking. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Daniel's voice cracked. Because I need you to know, I wasn't trying to hurt you. I thought I was helping keep the family together. I didn't see how far they were willing to go. I believed him, but that didn't make the betrayal sting any less. You should have told me sooner, I said, my voice soft but steady. He nodded, eyes downcast. I know. I'm sorry, Steph. After he left, I sat in the quiet living room for a long time. I thought about how often people justify doing the wrong thing because it's for the family. But real loyalty isn't covering up lies, it's protecting the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. The following week, the first pretrial hearing took place. Laura's attorney tried to paint her as an unwitting participant, someone who had simply trusted her brother's word. Mark's lawyer, meanwhile, claimed the entire matter was a family dispute blown out of proportion. But the DA wasn't having it. She presented the forged notary signature, the bank records, and Daniel's signed statement recanting his earlier false testimony. Every piece of evidence stacked higher, and I could see my siblings' confidence eroding in real time. When the judge announced that both defendants would remain out on bail but under travel restrictions, Laura turned toward me from across the courtroom. Her eyes were wide, almost pleading. For a second, I wondered if she was going to mouth I'm sorry, but she didn't. She just turned back to the table, her jaw tight. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Microphones and cameras were thrust toward me. Stephanie, how does it feel to be taking your own family to court? One asked. I stopped for just a moment and said, it's not about taking them to court, it's about making sure my father's wishes are honored. Then I walked away. That night, my phone rang again. This time, it was Laura. Her voice was small, nothing like the sharp, confident tone she'd used in court.